Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where I give you my review on NWA Crockett Cup. Both nights. And I will say I did have fun watching this event. And I'm going to go over what I thought and the results of certain matches. Now, I will say parts of the first round were on the pre-show, and I didn't exactly take notes. I do apologize for that. But I do have the results right here, so we can get into it. So, first match, which wasn't even on the pre-show. It was for FanFest, so it wasn't filmed. Or maybe it'll be on NWA Power tonight. Who knows? We have Magnum Muscle defeating the Spectaculars. Magnum Muscle being Dak Draper and Mims. Spectaculars, Brady Pierce and Rush Freeman. So they're moving on in the first round. In a Fatal 4-Way elimination match, which the winner gets the number 24 seed. You have the Outrunners, bit of an indie darling, getting their feet under them in other promotions. That's Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum. Defeated Daisy Kill and Talos, a bit of a new combination to NWA. Eric Jackson and Jeremiah Plunkett, a couple of former tag team members in other tag teams, so they teamed up. And the Miserably Faithful, that's Sal the Pal and Gags the Gimp. And we'll talk about the Outrunners match in a little bit. Next up, the Warriors from the Wasteland, that's Judias and Max the Impaler, beat the Now, Hale Collins and Vic Delicious, I think his name is. I don't know, it's a weird spelling. Like I said, another round I didn't see. Next up, we got the Flippin' Psychos, aka Control Your Narrative. Flip Gordon and Fodder take on Sent to Slaughter. That's Dan Maff and Sean Donovan. So, Flippin' Psychos, that's a great name. You got the Savages. That's Jack Stain and Blake Troop. Defeating TNT, Terrell and Terrence Hughes, a.k.a. Devon Dudley's kids. And apparently he was at the show. Which is good to see his father supporting his kids. Next up, the Brothers of Funstration, Yabo and Ruffle the Clown, defeat the Fixers, the former NWA United States tag team champions, Jay Bradley and Wrecking Ball Legursky. The first AAA combination of Arez and Toxin, Arez one half of the AAA tag team champions, defeat the Heat Seekers, Elliot Russell and Matt Sigmund. To move on, you have the Immortals, that's Kratos and Odinson. They beat Brian Brock and Magic Jake. Magic Jake's original partner Mercurio was seen in their qualifying match hitting on Jake's manager CJ, which, I don't know, that's a little weird to me. And our last first round match, you have the Outrunners, Upset City Baby, defeating Idol Sports Management, that's Scion and Jordan Clearwater. Although there is a little bit of story to that. Apparently there was a masked man who took out Scion to trigger this victory. So we'll talk about that match in a little bit. So hold tight. And our first matchup that I did cover that was on the main show, we have Blunt Force Trauma, Damage and Carnage taking on the Outrunners. And while it was originally looking like a squash match for Blunt Force Trauma, the Outrunners did fight back after a bit. But then after a flatliner combo, I don't even know what to call it, your winners, BFT. So, That means the Outrunners are out. Next up, a very interesting matchup that I wish had a little bit more time. You'll have the Country Gentlemen, the current United States Tag Team Champions, taking on the Immortals. This match was very hard-hitting, very good, very technical, but I felt like it ended just like that, and I do feel like it could, if it went a little bit longer, it could have been match of the night, with Kratos hitting the KTG for the victory for his team. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. We take our first break from the Crockett Cup itself, as we have a contenders match where the winner gets added to a 6-way scramble on night 2, where you have Alex Taylor taking on Joe Alonzo. This was definitely a very good match. It had more than enough time to breathe. Joe Alonzo targeting the injured parts of Alex Taylor, eventually winning with the armbar submission. We then get a nice little legend interview as Bobby Fulton comes out, recaps his time with the Crockett Cup, that he just fell short in the first one. Then out comes the Mortons, Kerry and Ricky. Ricky and Bobby go after their recap their wars in the tag team division. And then that leads into the Mortons versus Toxin and Arez, which was another very good match that I wish had a little bit more time. But I think the story in this match was Kerry being so frustrated he can't pick up the win, grabbed his junior heavyweight title, looked like he was going to hit his opponent with it, gets it taken away, tries it again. This time he takes the ref into a corner, and then Ricky picks it up, hits Arez with the title for the 1, 2, 3. Your winners, the Mortons, who are now bad guys, which, honestly, with Ricky, that's kind of a surprise. So, I definitely thought at least Kerry was going to be going heel, but both Mortons going bad, I'm okay with that. Something a little different. Next up, we got a cut above that is Tom Latimer, the current TV champion, and Rhett Titus teaming up against the Brothers of Funstration. And honestly, this was just a little funny little match, with Ruffo even bringing out juggling balls, and he juggled with Tom Latimer for a bit. And once Latimer was distracted picking up an errand ball, Ruffo went for a roll-up and got a 1 count, which that was interesting. Yabo then tried coming in. He got on all fours. Ruffo tripped him into a roll-up for the pretty big upset victory. Then after, Camille, who is the significant other of Tom Latimer, pretty much goes up to him and says, "Look, I know you two guys are friends, but this is clearly a tournament for tag teams, something you shouldn't be focusing on. You should be focusing on defending your title so that you can eventually get your shot at Tyrus. Because with the TV title, you have to defend it successfully like 9 times to earn yourself a world title shot." So, then Latimer and Red Titus leave the ring. This leaves Camille with a one-on-one interview, basically saying, yeah, she's focused on Natalia Markova. The last time we fought, I overlooked you. This time I'm not making the same mistake. So, that's pretty nice little promo to set up for night 2. Which, honestly, that should have been the main event. No offense to the tag teams. I think the women's title match should have main evented. Next up, we got the next Lucha Libre duo as Octagon Jr. and Mystices Jr. take on the Savages. And honestly, this was a nice little clash of styles. The powerhouses of the Savages, the obvious Lucha Libre style of the Luchadors. And winner via the roll-up, the Lucha Libre duo. Which, definitely a lot of fun. Again, I wish this was given a teeny bit more time. Next up, we got our first taste of the women's division, as it's the Hardcore Tag Team War. Now, what this is, the rules of this. You got a 4-on-4 team battle, but instead of like normal Survivor Series, it's no tags. Once you're eliminated, you go to the back, and the next woman is in. So, it's definitely very interesting. The team members, you have Samantha Starr, the current NWA Women's Tag Team Champions, M95, and it was supposed to be La Rosa Negra, but sadly she had to pull out because she was in a car accident. Get better soon, La Rosa. So instead, we have her replacement, Ruthie J, who to me is a relative unknown, but I liked what I saw from her in this matchup. And they are taking on the full might of Pretty Empowered. So that's Kenzie and Kylie Page, Roxy, and I forget the last woman. I'm sorry. Ella Envy. And this match lived up to the billing. It was very hardcore. They brought in cookie sheets. They brought in kendo sticks, hockey sticks, chairs. But ultimately, the last woman standing, Samantha Starr, with help from her mother and a loaded coal miner's glove, a la Jake the Snake Roberts. Big old hit. And for the 1, 2, 3. So your winners, the Babyfaces. Which, it was definitely a fun match and a much needed, I don't want to say a much needed distraction, but it definitely broke up the tournament really well. Let the tournament breathe a little bit more. And we go back to the tournament as we have Knox and Murdoch taking on Magnum Muscle. And honestly, these two teams really worked really, really well together. There was definitely some big power moves. And a finisher, which I didn't see coming. The high-low, which is like clothesline and then a sweeping leg. So your winners, Knox and Murdoch, going on to the second round. And then we get to this match. We got Max the Impaler and Judas taking on the Midnight Riders. That's Chris Adonis, the former Chris Masters, and the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Tyrus. And, this match wasn't great. It was slow, it was plodding, I will say, Judas definitely showed more signs of life than he normally does. No offense to Judas, but I think he brought it in this match. Near the end of the match, you see Tyrus plant a kiss on Max the Impaler, which sets her off. She then shoves the ref, which causes everyone to stand around for a little bit, and then a DQ win for the Midnight Riders, because, of course. Yeah, this was the first really down match of the night for me. I do feel like this could have been handled better. But hell, who knows? Maybe we'll see Max the Impaler challenge for the World Heavyweight title somewhere down the line. We then get a Natalia Markova interview, pretty much saying, how Camille underestimated her in their last meeting. But now I'm in Camille's head, and that is just what I'm going to need to take the title from her. So, yep, definitely a more interesting setup for the next evening. Next up, our only title match of the evening, which is a little nuts, but hey, I'll take it. You have Thrillbilly Silas Mason being seconded by Pollo Del Mar, taking on EC3 for the national title. And honestly, these two guys have some great chemistry together. I believe this is their first match together, so that's really cool. They did have some promos with one another, which, definitely saw Silas keep up with EC3. And this match was very well paced. It was really good. At points, you have EC3 rolling out the ring after the moves to jaw with Pollo. Now, near the end of the matchup, you have Pollo Del Mar on the ring apron holding the title belt. EC3 then runs the ropes a little bit. Pollo has him held. Thrillbilly goes for a big boot. Misses, hits Pollo, knocks her down to the ramp. EC3 then, while Thrillbilly is looking down on Pollo, hits a low blow. Roll up for the victory and the retention. Match itself was awesome. Easily best match of the evening. But I think what happens after is very interesting as well. Because you see the ringside announcers pretty much telling Thrillbilly, Pollo's hurt, Pollo's hurt. So instead of going in and checking on her, Thrillbilly steps over her and goes to the back to leave, which, a little trouble in paradise for Pollo and Thrillbilly. So, we shall see what happens there. And in our main event, we have the NWA Tag Team Champions, La Rebellion, and this is a Crockett Cup tournament match. The final first round match, taking on the Flippin' Psychos. However, it is revealed that Fodder, Flip Gordon's partner, is out injured and maybe not cleared for action. So La Rebellion are pretty much saying, ref, start the match, let's get this over with. So, bell rings, ref is starting her count out. Out comes Flip Gordon in the ring, pretty much saying, I'll do this alone. I'm going to go it alone. We're going to do a 2-on-1 handicap match. And honestly, it's pretty even to start. But then La Rebellion take over, pretty much overpowering Flip Gordon. Out comes Fodder in low tape. He's limping around. He gets on the apron, reaches out for a tag out. Little bit of a house of fire, but then during the match, I guess Angelina Love gets involved. The ref throws her out, and then while the ref is distracted, Vampiro from out of nowhere comes in, takes out Fodder and Flip Gordon. Mecha Wolf has a big old frog splash to get the victory. So, Vampiro's going to be around helping out the tag champs, which, that's going to be interesting. Alright, that is it for night one. I definitely had a lot of fun with these matchups. Easily best match of night one was the national title match. And then we begin night two. Now, again, we did have some pre-show matches, including a gauntlet match for the NWA United States Tag Team Champions. Country Gentlemen picking up the win and keeping the title. Thrillbilly Silas Mason without Pollo Del Mar, instead with Alex Taylor. They've been mentioning all night how Thrillbilly is a part of a group called the Southern Six, which I'm interested to see them on the program. Defeated Dan Maff. M95, Maddie Rankowski and Missa Kate took on and defeated Angelina Love and Max the Impaler for the women's tag team titles. And Ruthie J challenged Kenzie Page for the NWA Women's TV title, but the match was interrupted by Kylie Page to cause a DQ for Ruthie J, but Kenzie Page keeps the title, which, yeah, I don't love that, but whatever. We now go for the main show, night one, right back into the Crockett Cup, as Octagon and Mystices Jr. take on the Brothers of Funstration. And, you start off with the brothers kind of clowning around like they do, because they're clowns. But then they really got into it. Like, I think we finally found the talent behind the Brothers of Funstration. But after a little while, the luchadors were way too much. After a cutter and a 450 splash, your winners, Octagon and Mystices Jr. Which, definitely a fun match. Again, wish it went a little tiny bit longer. Continuing on with the Crockett Cup, we've got Knox and Murdoch taking on the Mortons. Morton start out before the match with a big low blow, and they do it's weird, like with the ref distracted, not looking at him, they do these kind of non-tags, but switch in anyway. It's honestly really good strategy, especially with them now being heels. But ultimately, Knox and Murdoch break it up, overpower the duo, and Mike Knox with a big old sky high, which that was impressive. And then the high-low for your winners. Moving on to the third round, Mike Knox and Trevor Murdoch. We then get what I think is going to be Tyrus's best match as the Midnight Riders take on the Immortals. And honestly, just the power struggle between these two teams was pretty dang good. Especially with Kratos and Tyrus. And then after an Adonis lock, which that's Chris Adonis, the master lock, Otis Dunn, gets knocked out, does the arm, and your winners by submission, the Midnight Riders, which, definitely a better match than the opening one for the Midnight Riders. So, gonna give them a bit of a pass for this one. Next up, we got legendary NWA referee Tommy Young out, saying, I'm not so Tommy Young anymore, I'm Tommy Old, which that got a pop from me. Then, because he's not an active ref, he is asked who he wants to win the tournament, and of course he says the Midnight Riders. So, that could be fun. That was a nice little thing to honor a legendary ref. Next up, you've got the NWA Tag Team Champions, La Rebellion, taking on Blunt Force Trauma. And honestly, I'm going to say this, I think this was match of the whole tournament. You got the overpowering might of BFT. You got the fight from underneath from La Rebellion. However, it is not enough, and after a Draminator, I'm going to call it that, your winners, Blunt Force Trauma. So they beat the tag champs, finally. So, Maybe they're next in line for a title shot. We'll see. Next up, for the NWA National title, it's Champion's Choice. And you have EC3. And who does he choose? The NWA Television Champion, Tom Latimer. However, before the match begins, EC3 has a stipulation for Latimer. He asked, will you openly defend your television title, or will you be greedy and go after my national title? And Latimer says, yeah, I'll be greedy. I'm going after your title. And this match was so dang good. I don't know what much to say about it. EC3 went for a 1%er pretty early. Tom Latimer countered it. Definitely a lot of good back and forth. And then EC3 goes and gets his title belt near the end. Gets in the ring. Looks like he's going for a title shot. Swing and a miss. Then a big slam on the apron, which was interesting. Ref takes the belt, and that distracts Tom Latimer long enough for the EC3 to go for a kick from behind, an implant buster for the 1, 2, 3. So your winner, still NWA National Champion, EC3. That was a very good match. A little weak ending, but I did enjoy it. Next up, we got the 6-man scramble match, where the winner gets a future shot at the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Participants are as followed. If you'll pardon me for a minute, you have Flip Gordon. You have Eric Jackson, finally getting a little shot. Joe Alonzo earned his way in. Gags the Gimp being seconded by Sal the Pal, who is hurting. Jared Fulton, who is a new face to the NWA. PJ Hawks, fresh off of his injury. He is finally back and good to go. However, before the match begins, it is announced that there has been a newly added 7th man to the match, and it is the return of Kobe Carino. Now, Carino had a very interesting situation early in the year. In January, his NWA contract expired. There was a lot of talk of him going to WWE, but apparently that plan is on hold for right now, so he's back in the NWA. And honestly, this match reminded me of the old X Division matches TNA had. Well, Impact has, but it's a lot crazier, a lot of good athletic flippy stuff, and just a lot of good wrestling. Kind of near-ish the end. Out comes Juditas and James Mitchell. They confront Gags the Gimp. And then Juditas powerbombs him onto everyone else outside the ring. Juditas then picks up Gags, walks him to the back. Sal the Pal, who is sitting ringside, then follows. So does this mean that Sal and Gags are back with the Miserably Faithful? I'm not sure. I guess we'll see in a little bit. Match comes to an end with a big old clothesline, a DDT, with your winner and new number 1 contender, Kobe Carino. Out comes Kerry Morton for a little stare down with his new challenger. We then get back into the Crockett Cup as we have Blunt Force Trauma taking on Octagon Jr. and Mystices. Before the bell can begin, BFT tries to jump the Luchadors. But the Luchadors fight back immediately. Bell rings, and then the Luchadors are up for a little bit. BFT fight back. But then, after a dramatization, your winner, BFT, going to the finals. Next up, you got the Midnight Riders taking on Knox and Murdoch. Definitely a bit of a more of a heavyweight title fight, and apparently during the last match, Tyrus injured his knee, so you see his knee all taped up, ready to go. And yeah, it was to start, it was a bit of a one-sided match, but then Knox and Murdoch fought back. Murdoch breaks out of a master lock at one point, which that was dang cool. A lot of nice back and forth. And your winners, after a big high-low, your winners, Knox and Murdoch. So, a little bit of a surprise finish for this match, but we got the finals of BFT versus Knox and Murdoch. Bit predictable for NWA, but I'll give them a pass. Next up, we have an unsanctioned match in which Scion takes on the masked man who attacked him in the first round of the Crockett Cup. We then see that Sion's father, Austin Idol, came out with him, but he came out a few steps behind him. So, that's definitely interesting. A lot of good back and forth. The masked man definitely rips Sion's mask apart. We don't see Sion's full face, but it's definitely there. And we get trash cans involved, we get chairs. But ultimately, the finish comes when the masked man has Sion in the ropes. Austin Idol takes out his knuckles, brass knuckles, and then hits Sion. Hits his own son. So it does look like Austin Idol turned heel on his son. This brings out Jordan Clearwater to try and make the save, but Idol takes him out as well. Ultimately, your winner. Actually, there is no winner. Match was ultimately thrown out. Which I don't like ref stoppages in no DQ matches. It doesn't make sense to me. But whatever. And then post-match, you see Austin Idol leaving with the masked man. So, we'll see what happens there. We then get a Pollo Del Mar interview in which she's in a neck brace, which that's a nice little touch. Ultimately, it's revealed, she's not cleared to actually be here. She does say some about what happened last night, in that Silas was distracted by EC3. When we're home, we're good. So, what happened the other night wasn't personal. It was just priorities for Thrillbilly. So, we'll see what happens. Next up, we have the NWA Women's title on the line as Natalia Markova challenges Camille. And, boy, this was an excellent match. Easily match of the weekend. With both women just going at it. Real nice back and forth. Near the end of the match, Natalia goes for the beautiful disaster kick. Gets caught by Camille, who shoves her back. Spear. 1, 2, 3. Your winner and one time NWA Women's Champion, Camille. Honestly, like I said, this was match of the weekend, and maybe a match of the year candidate as well. We'll see about that. We'll see. And finally, we made it. Your main event for NWA Crockett Cup, and it is for, of course, the Crockett Cup. You have Knox and Murdoch versus Blunt Force Trauma. And honestly, it was a little slow to get out of the gate, but ultimately it did pick up a bit by the middle. Big old ref bump near the end. It looks like Aaron Stevens is going for the loaded glove shot. Actually, that does happen. He then puts Carnage, his guy, on Murdoch for the 2 count, which leads right into the high-low. So your winners, new Crockett Cup champions, Knox and Murdoch. Now, I will ultimately say I didn't see Knox and Murdoch winning because they're kind of the Franken team of the tournament. I will say they aren't the Briscoe brothers. Rest in peace, Jay. However, I am not mad at this because both of these guys work hard and they can wrestle, honestly, I think as well as anyone on the roster. So, ultimately, other than my complaints with the lengths of certain matches, ultimately, I did enjoy the show. I give it a big thumbs up. And I hope y'all go check out some matches, because it was a good show. Alright, that is it for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tomorrow, I'm bringing you my predictions for Against All Odds, Impact's latest show. That should be a fun one, which is going down on Friday, so sadly I won't be covering anything on Friday. Tomorrow, I'm going to cover, Raw, NWA Power, and AEW Dynamite from this week, which should be a fun one. And then on Thursday... No, that's it. That's it for Thursday. So I hope you guys join me for that. Then starting next week, I'm going to change up the schedule a little bit. Because next week is our first episode of AEW Collision, Saturday nights, 8 p.m., Of course, it's going to be in Chicago, and of course, it's going to be the return of CM Punk. So now with the extra show, I am going to split up the recording times a little bit differently. So, instead of just having Raw, Power, and AEW Dynamite for Thursday, I am going to do a couple blocks. We're going to Raw, NWA Power, AEW Dynamite, Impact, and MLW Fusion. I will cover on Fridays at some point during the day. And then Sundays, I'm going to cover Ring of Honor. I know that's on Thursdays, but I watch it Fridays during the day. SmackDown, Rampage, and then Collision. So, and NWA USA. So, we're going to be covered with a lot of wrestling content going forward. I hope you join me for that. And until next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.